Okay, everybody, we're gonna experiment and play with some Geode ceramic coasters. Here's some examples that we have right here of some that we've done in the past. So you might have a certain color geodes that you like. If you look up some pictures on the internet, that's a good way to start and, you know, get an idea of how they go. Or it could be more like a fantasy geode like this one here, which has multiple colors in it. It's totally your choice. You have 4 coasters. They all have magnetic backs on the back, so you can hang them on, you know, anything. Most things metal. They won't hang on a stainless steel refrigerator. But surprisingly enough, apparently there's a lot more than just stainless steel in a dishwasher. A lot of times they will hang on the dishwasher, of course, a stove or anything like that, or the sides of the refrigerator. Also, usually if you have a stainless steel refrigerator, they're also still usually not stainless steel. But here are just some examples to go over, and you're going to have everything you need to make these. I'm going to show you one other way. So these are like partial geodes. This one has like several pieces. So there's really no rules. This one's like a whole geode kind of thing. You can make 4 different ones, or they could be like a set. Or let me show you on this one here. We did 4 of the same. And if you do this, you're going to want to do all 4 of these together at the same time. Let me see if I can match them up the way they're... No, that doesn't seem right. All right, let me see. That goes there. So I did all 4 of these together. This here. Yes. So that when I put them hanging someplace where we weren't using them, you know, you have one large geode. That's totally up to you. So we're going to be working with alcohol inks today, and the ceramic tiles, white plain ceramic tiles. You have, now yours are going to be in smaller, brand new bottles, as opposed to mine that I'm working with today that are a little messed up. But you're going to have a clear, which is an alcohol-based blending solution. Red, yellow, and blue primary colors, and a black. Out of these, you can make any color you like. By adding blending solution, you can make the colors paler if you need to. If you have something that you want to make a deeper shade, just a tiny bit of black, and that can also help with that. So we're going to start with those right there. You have some cotton swabs, cotton balls. Some of these swabs are have like a point to them on the end, like a precision tipped. Those would be useful for like really thin lines you'd like to make, or also there's some regular just Q-tip kind of thing. And a palette that you can use to work from, but you can also work right from the bottle. So what we're going to do to start is just to take a little bit of the blending solution, put it on a clean cotton swab, and you have the gloves too, by the way. You want to use those because the alcohol inks will stain your hands. Probably put something plastic or at least a few layers of paper on any working table that you're going to use to make sure that you don't... this bottle's not working for some reason. To make sure that you don't damage the surface you're using. So I'm going to wipe across the top of this completely, just to make sure that we get any oils from our fingers or any debris that's on there, get them nice and clean. And you can leave it a little wet like this and go ahead and start working with that. And the more that there's a blending solution on there or with it, the more of a bloom you get in the alcohol inks. So you can work right from the bottle if you like, and just start from the outside. We're going to work from the outside in, and just start from the edge and just squeeze the bottle, and you can kind of create your own shape like that. They dry very quickly, so you just give it a few minutes to dry. You could also wait until that background is dry. Go ahead and use one of these swabs, put some color right on it from the bottle or from your paint well, from your palettes, and use that. See how you're going to get a different look. So right straight from the bottle, you're going to get that very deep color. And just add to that. Or you can, you're going to use your palette, you can mix colors together in your palette So if you put a few drops of blue and a few drops of magenta, my bottles are sticky, you're going to get a purple color. And if you want a deep shade like those dark colors, you leave that. If not, you can add some blending solution to that. Now, after a little bit of time, these are, you know, mostly made up of pigment and alcohol. So those colors will tend to dry up pretty quickly. The alcohol will evaporate. If you leave the project and you come back to it and they're completely evaporated, or you need to add to it, just go ahead and add some blending solution and that will reconstitute it. But basically, these are the methods. Now, if you go ahead and let that dry, and you want to add layers to it, you can actually use the same swab over and over again and cover, but you have to wait until it dries. And it's going to create kind of like a hard, it's called a hard line edges. So you'll create a lot of texture in there. But it's just fun to play with. So even if you just added the blending solution onto a swab itself, it's always good to fill up one of your paint wells with, when I say fill up, you don't need much in there, but just the blending solution by itself. But say this purple that I just did, that's already dried. So I can go ahead and with this and just touch it with the blending solution. And if you see closely, it's going to start creating texture right in there. It's going to push colors away. So if I want to, say, go right around the edge, anywhere, maybe even into the blues, and just bring those colors together a little bit. Works well for that. You have to wait a few seconds, see it dry, and then decide whether you want to go back in with more or less. But basically you're going to work from the outside in, and then we'll work on the outer area, which is the background. You choose the color once you decide. But in the meantime, the good news is, whatever you have going on here, if you're not happy with it, you don't like the way things are looking, or you want to start all over again, you just take a clean swab and wipe this off. So the surface, the top surface of this ceramic tile will completely wipe clean, and you can start all over again. It may take a couple of, depends on how much ink you have on there, it'll take a couple of swabs to do that. You can get the whole background off. So I think I'm going to go with a bluish purplish combination geode. I'm going to start with that purple that I have right there. I'm going to do maybe a light blue, maybe even a darker blue. So I'm going to do the darker blue by adding just a single drop of black, because that really black is really a strong color. So you get your secondary colors. Blue and yellow is going to make a green. Blue and magenta is going to make a purple. And yellow and red, the magenta, is going to make an orange. So you have your secondary and tertiary colors throughout there, depending on how much of one versus the other. But you can play with that and see what your preference is. So I'm going to start out with that purple on the outside layer. I just want to go with kind of a jagged edged kind of thing, like that. And then I may want to take some blending solution and just add it to that purple to make it a much paler shade to go. Maybe save some white area between. And again, you can use the precision tip also. You want to go right to the edge of these though, as well. We'll let those dry a little bit. that blending solution and go right between them. That'll make the color bloom. It's going to pull out, make a lot of texture in there. And you can do that just by dotting it. Add a little bit more blending solution and just dot it on there and see what happens. So it's really easy to work with. It's a lot of fun. So I think I'm going to try some of the blue now to incorporate into it. And I used the swap that still had a little purple on the end, so it's just going to create a little bit of a purplish blue. And you can see when you play with this, it doesn't take very long for it to dry. You blow on it a little bit, so I can speed it up. I just want to dip into a little bit more of that blending solution and kind of marry those colors together in between there, but still maintain some of that white space as well. Maybe the same thing on this side to bring a paler shade in. And as they dry, you can layer by layer go over it, and that's going to create a lot of that geode type texture, like a geode slice texture in that. Now I want to go into the deeper, the one I added a little bit of black to, that deeper blue. Just create another dark ring in here, but I want to go with a nice thin line of that. So as they lay that color down, I'll start thinking about what color do I want this outer area, which is the negative space on this, to be. It's usually something that's not going to really stand out. It's not the star of the show. You don't want a lot of interest going on in that background. Let's kind of blend that out with a little blending solution and pull some of that color into a little paler, let it bloom out a little bit towards the center. Now everybody has a packet of some glitter that we use, just a small amount of it, to create like the look of the center of the geode that kind of has a crystal reflective texture to it. I want to bring that outer edge. You see how it creates like this hard line? It's called the hard line around the outer edge of that, and I just want to re-emphasize that a little bit more. So that's done by layers. Layer by layer, you just add a little bit to it, and that's going to create that. I definitely want to bloom this out to a white right here. And then maybe go back in. It's either the blue or the purple. I think I'll go with the blue again. blowing out a little bit to let it dry. And as it dries and you have a good look at what's going on, you can always go back in with the wet tip of the same color and just add some more dimension to your coaster. If you feel like it's too dark, add some more blending solution. If it's too light, you add some more color. But the more that you kind of layer, creates all that texture. And I'm going to bring some of that purple down into this final layer down here, just a little. Some of that. So just play with it and go back and forth between colors and techniques. Maybe take one tile and just practice your techniques on it a few times. You have enough supplies there to do that. And usually at this center area, I like to make that a crystal kind of thing. So I add a little blending solution right to that. Then I add a little of my color that I plan on being the final color I use in the center. Not too much of it. If you get too much, you can wipe it with a swab or one of your cotton pads. But I want to have some fair amount of liquid right in there so that when I add in these crystals, it's not crystals, it's actually like a glitter, but it gives that crystal look. Just be careful with that. And you don't want to cake it up where there's too much in there. It's going to take on the color. They all start out white, but it's going to take on the color of the ink that's already down there. So I just add that in, and I can kind of gently flatten them and move it around a little bit with my finger. But I don't really want the glitter into any other area, so I'll wipe that off my finger before I go back into that. And I'm not sure what I want to do. I want to go back with this a few more times on these layers to just create a little bit more texture. I want to think about what color that I'd like to complement this, but not take over the negative space over here. I think I just want to go with actually just like I'm going to use a couple drops of black and some blending solution, probably 3 times as much of that as blending solution, because I want a fairly pale shade of gray to do this area. Maybe a little more blending solution. See that black? That's why you use it 1 drop at a time, because it really does overpower and take over. So that's okay. You can move it around. Now you can have this a nice smooth coat, or you can go with a texture look with that. But the important thing is when you get up to the edge of your geode, just want to brush up against that color, not kind of mute it in together. I kind of like a little more texture in it myself. And again, where this is too dark, I'll go back in and bring that color around. You'll see you create some texture in it, and then as it dries, those texture will kind of smooth out. If you want more, you just go back in when it's almost dry and reapply. You don't even need to add more color, just retouch it. Make sure you get all around the edges. Now, the only area that can be like wiped clean and repainted is the top surface. But you do want to do, when you're done and you've decided what color your negative space is going to be, like this one is the gray, and see how this was kind of textured when I put it on, but as it's starting to dry, it kind of blends out and smooths out some, so I'm going to add some more texture back into that. And then I think that I want to go with, you decide on what you do want on the sides, because this color is going to be permanent. So whatever you put on those sides, it's going to stay that color, because we cannot wipe it clean. It's porous. The edges of the ceramic are porous. Kind of like that look. So I may actually incorporate a little of the gray into a layer in here. We could play with that, because you also have two pens now that are an oil-based Sharpie marker and a white gel pen that you can use to do, once it's completely dry, to add a little bit more interest to it. But these sides here are porous, so you want to take your swab and just apply it directly, whatever color it's going to be, just to each side, go around the whole thing. You can see all that, just so that it doesn't have like a white look that the original tile did. I'm sure there's a better way I can show you this. Really need myself a cameraman here. A lot of times I do projects so that you can see them, but it's a very awkward position for me. So it would help if I had somebody to move rather than this arm that holds the camera for me. But this will manage. So we have all the sides done. So, you know, it's up to you. It's good to take a walk away from it, step away, come back, take a look, see what you do like, what you don't like, and just play with it until you get, you know, like any of these other ones. We play with this a little bit more. This one here. Until you get the right look for yourself. I think I'm going to add some in here. I'm not crazy about the boom to the white there. But I'm going to stop playing with this one so they can show you how to do the pens, both the pens and the urethane top coat to seal it. So, and this is completely dry. You do have a white gel pen and a ultra fine tipped Sharpie marker. Now you can use these any place. Obviously the black is going to go any place where you feel like you need just a little more interest, a little more shading, shadowing, make it pop a little bit more. You don't have to use it at all. But it creates like some veining. You may like that look, or maybe not so much. It's totally up to you. I think I'll go with also the white gel pen. Now sometimes on this, you know, high gloss surface, sometimes a pen of any kind will stop, the ball will stop rolling, it will stop working. Just take it on your whatever paper or plastic you have in your background and give it a little scribble on that paper to try to get it rolling again if you seem to look like it stopped. So if you have anything that looks like, oh, this is just a little too thick or too harsh, this color, go right through it with the white, and that brings you know, again, more of a natural geode looking kind of thing. Of course, you don't need any kind of straight line with that. It's just adding more depth. Okay, I think I'm happy with that one. I would normally give this a good 15 minutes or so to dry before applying the varnish, the polyurethane on top of that. And I'm going to do that right with my fingers, actually, rather than a brush. So we don't have brush strokes. And the first coat, you'll have enough to do 2 coats, but the first coat you want to seal it with. You don't want to rub too much in the background to try to pull up some of that ink. Mostly they don't interact together, so it shouldn't be a problem, but we don't want to smear too much. So our first coat, we're going to not try to get it perfect. We're going to let that dry. That also doesn't take very long to dry, maybe 20 minutes or so. And then we put the final coat on, and that you can get to the exact texture or consistency that you like. So I'm going to do one that's already been dry for a few minutes. Okay, so everybody got a small container like this of the polyurethane sealant that we're going to use to go over it. Then you can either pour a little kind of pool or a smear across the top, or you can dip your finger in it. Basically, you don't want it too thick, so I'm going to kind of drizzle some on there first. Be careful of the areas where you did spread the glitter, because we don't want to move that around. Now the first coat that we give it is going to seal that in place. So second coat, we could be more accurate about where it's going. You don't want to mess with too much of it on the first coat. Just want to make sure we get all the way to the edges. You can do the actual lateral sides if you like, but I usually don't. And again, it doesn't really pull up color once it's dried. Give it about 15-20 minutes to dry before you put this coat on. And then in between these 2 coats, give it a test, you know, depending on the humidity, how long it's going to take for that urethane to dry. But you want to make sure it is dry enough to put on a second coat. And again, we'll be back to our, you have the magnets on the back of them, and it's a completely hard surface. I hope you guys have fun doing this. You have a great time, and come and see us again when we're open again soon. Everybody stay safe, and we'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye.